This is a first time for me trying to do a presentation along with the sermon, and I can't see whether the presentation is going through. And am I audible?
You're audible, and we can see the slides coming.
Okay, and if I launch the presentation,
Sorry, I think we lost Brother Henk, but we're getting him back. He's coming back. E-technology. We can sing a song as let me see which song. We can have a song 327. I'd rather have Jesus. I'd rather have Jesus. So we can try singing it here as we wait for Brother Henk. Rachel, you can join us as we sing this. I'd rather have Jesus. Yes. I can see Brother Henk has joined.
good. Apologies. As I said, this is the first time. Are we back on and looking better now?
Yes, now you're looking perfect.
Good. All right. And okay, I'm figuring out the layout. Okay, so that was a poor start. Let's admit that. I just want to invite my visitor, Brother Ian. He uses various names. He's probably a very alert and aware Adventist, so he's being elusive. But he joins us from London. So you might have picked up that Tony and I have a few friends in London that we like to invite because the time zone is convenient for them. So Brother Ian, we used to worship together at the Central London Church. Ian, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem, man. Yeah, well, Ian is my middle name, and my first name is Francois. But yeah, thanks, Hank, for introducing me that way. It's a great Sabbath school from what I've seen, and looking forward to what you're going to say. So yeah, my middle name is Ian, but my first name is Francois.
Good, we've got that clear. Thank you. And now we'll start with the sermon. It's been a struggle to get to this point. Do you mind if we say a quick prayer? Dear Lord, please be with us as we, despite technology and the users of technology, the various challenges involved, that we are trying to broadcast the sermon, Lord Jesus, to the encouragement of your people. And you've made it possible for us to connect from Singapore to Nairobi to London and all around the world. It is possible. And we ask that your Spirit will guide our presentation here today. We ask this in your name. Amen. Now, today's message, we'll be taking a look at the book of Ezekiel. And the Nairobi group were actually scheduled to have this message in February, and then something happened, and that never materialized. And so now you have the opportunity to catch up on that. So for scripture reading, we page to 1 Corinthians 14, verse 8. For if the trumpet give an uncertain sound, who shall prepare himself to the battle? And we'll be talking about the watchman who is to blow the trumpet. Now, as a start for the message today, I invite you to travel with me because no one can travel. So I really want to rub your faces into my rich holiday experience. A few years ago, I visited a certain destination, and I don't know if any of you would be able to guess this destination. Clearly, there's a beach involved. There's some busy nightlife. And if any of you Adventists knew what tiger is, It's a beer brand, so I would be terribly disappointed, obviously. And this boat in the right corner has a flag on it. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with that flag. Where did I go for my holiday? The text was 1 Corinthians 14, verse 8. I see the comments coming through here. So this holiday of mine was in Phuket, Thailand. So this was in December 2012, and Francois will know that we left London in May of 2012. So this was our first holiday on arrival in Singapore. We went to Phuket. Now, during this visit to Phuket, the Lord gave me an experience which will serve as a powerful illustration for the message that we want to share today. So it's not about me bragging about my holiday, because that's something that happens. Usually in the months of January and February, the pastors come back from the annual holiday, and those first few sermons are quite difficult to get through because they're bragging about their holidays. But this is not the exact same thing. There was an actual event that I'd like to share with you. It is to do with the accommodation that I selected for this wonderful holiday. Now, I need to caution that this is not a TripAdvisor review, so please don't lose interest. But we at those times had just arrived in Singapore, so we weren't yet earning the healthy salaries that you find here in Singapore. So I was still leaning on my UK-based savings, which, as Francois can attest, there's a heavier tax on your funds in the UK. So we had to manage the budget carefully. So I went around shopping for a hotel, and I wanted a hotel that's pretty close to the beach. So I've got here the Google Maps, and you can see that, just about a street removed from the beachfront, there is our hotel. It is claiming to be a 3-star hotel, and you'll see later that that might not be the most honest scoring of hotel standards in Thailand. It also, it's not quite confident that it's a hotel. It calls itself a resortal. So it's a resort hoping to be a hotel, but it's neither really, and it's definitely not silver. It's more in the bronze or lower category. But we were still young people, and we didn't have that much to spend on hotels. So this is what it looks like. Okay, not a lavish accommodation option in the least, but I want you to take careful notice of the amount of electric wiring that you see outside of the silver resortal. Pay careful attention to the distribution boxes that are sitting atop of these structures in between this hotel and the structure right next to it, because that will be of keen interest as we proceed. Now, our very first night in this hotel, my wife and I are fast asleep because we've just arrived. We thought we'll have an early night in, and then I heard a loud bang, and I'm a light sleeper, so I'm awake, and I'm what was that? And then I hear shouts. And then I hear some very remotely but familiar sounds. So when I was in high school, I had very naughty friends. And at one time, some of these friends of mine grabbed the fire extinguishers at the school. They popped the fire extinguisher and sprayed the contents of the fire extinguisher out into the air. So I knew what it sounds like when a fire extinguisher gets popped, and when its contents is being released into the air. And those are the sounds I heard. And I thought to myself, that can't be a good thing to hear at this time of night. So I woke my wife up, and I said to her, look, I don't want you to panic. I don't want any overreacting, but I think there might be a fire. And I think it might be best for you to start packing, and I'll quickly run outside and see what's going on, because I don't know how much time we have. Well, indeed, I ran outside, and remember I was indicating the wiring and the transformers that you saw. Well, one of these transformers was actually deeper into this area where the hotels are, deeper into that divide. And one of those transformers had exploded. And in its exploding, it had set fire to the structure which was next to our hotel. And this was another hotel which had a wooden facade. And all that wood started to catch fire. And it is burning. And I run out. I see, yes, definitely there's fire. And it also seemed to me like the last of the fire extinguishers had just been spent. So I run back. I get my wife. I say, we've got to get out now. And we run out, and we end up on the street. And we're standing across the street right about now. And we can see the fire is growing. And by coincidence, we're speaking in our mother tongue, which is Afrikaans. And while we're talking, people next to us say, "Oh, are you Afrikaans?" And they are also a South African couple who were also staying in the same hotel, who also heard the commotion and came running out. And just as a side note, that tells you that South Africans are always very alert wherever we are in the world. We come from an environment where you need to be alert. So it was a very strange coincidence that the only 4 people who left the hotel were 2 couples coming from South Africa. But we were having a nice chat, but after a while I'm starting to think, well, I'm not hearing a fire alarm. And I said to the South African guy, you know what, someone should really go in there and start to evacuate that hotel, because there are still people inside there. And while my South African friend, who I've just met out on the street here, while he was very sympathetic to the thought that I'm conveying, he was not up for the challenge. So, you know, after a while it dawned on me, look, he's not going to do anything. No one else is going to do something. But someone really needs to go and evacuate that hotel. So I ran back in there, and I started to hammer on the doors. I got the concierge, and I said to him, where's your register of the visitors? How do we know which rooms have people in? And there was nothing. There was no record of anything, nothing. So I said, well, you'll have to come with me, and if I'm going to kick a door down tonight, I'm going to do it, because if you don't have the keys, I'm breaking doors down. We're evacuating the entire hotel. And that's what we did. We went floor by floor, and, you know, I was kicking and screaming on the doors, and people opened the doors, and they heard fire, and they started running. And I had a few unique experiences on the way to the top floor. There was a Russian man who wanted to get violent, but when he opened the door and he saw that, you know, I'm about 2 meters tall, he wasn't so sure if he was going to be able to get violent here. But he didn't understand a word of English, so he didn't understand what I was trying to say to him. But then his child was sleeping in another room, and the child opened their door, and I think, you know, kids these days, they understand English more than parents, you know, as the technology spreads the language. And I think he understood fire, and the boy started crying, and then he said to his dad, there's a fire, and then, you know, the whole family left. So at least no need for a confusion and violence adding to the whole drama of the night. And that's how we cleared the floors. And look, there weren't many floors. I think there was about 3 or 4. But what I distinctly remember is approaching the very last room. So we're right on the top story, the very last room, and I'm knocking on that door and nothing's happening. And I asked the concierge, are there people in this room? And he can't say yes or no. And I say, my friend, I told you I'm going to kick this door down because we can't leave these doors shut, and potentially there's someone on the other side of that door. So I stood back and I started to kick the door, and I must say I was pleasantly surprised to find that the 3-star hotel's doors could take a beating. The door did not want to break. But finally, we got a response from inside the room. The door opened on a small little crack, and someone was peering through the door. And I said, fire. And by this time, you know, I'm using a bit of German as well, Feuer, and I'm speaking whatever languages I know. And, you know, something triggered. And this person seems to have been of a Chinese or an Oriental background. They opened the door wider, and their eyes were, you know, wide open. Clearly, they understood there's danger, and they ran back into the room. And then the most amazing thing I've ever seen, I saw one person come out, then another, then another, then another. And so it continued. 7 people in that one room, but they all evacuated. So it was a father, a mother, their 3 children with 2 grandparents, all in one room. And they all exited safely. And we ran outside. The whole hotel was evacuated. You can see here the fire brigade arrived. But we lost hope when the fire brigade arrived, and they had the flip-flop slippers, you know, these sandals. That didn't seem to be effective footwear for fighting a fire. And also the truck couldn't get close enough to the fire because it's in between the buildings. And then the pipe with which the hose with which they wanted to extinguish the fire, that couldn't extend far enough, and the guy with the footwear didn't want to go closer to the fire because he was worried about getting burned. So it didn't take long for me to realize there's no way this fire is going to be stopped. And this is how it escalated. It went to the top floor, and certainly that family who we evacuated last would have been in a difficult position. And this, the next morning, this was my room. This was where my wife and I were sleeping that night. Somewhere in that windowsill, I forgot my spectacles in the rush to get out. But that's what our room looked like. Now, the question I have is, what would have happened at that hotel if there was not a watchman? You know, there really wasn't a watchman, not an official one in any case. What if there was a watchman, but he gave no warning? You know, there was a concierge. He was supposed to be the watchman, but he, I don't know, somehow he thought it would be impolite to go and wake people up and tell them the hotel is burning down. Or maybe he was embarrassed about the fact that his hotel is burning. He doesn't have a fire alarm. But he failed to understand the seriousness of the situation, and people can die. What if there was a watchman and he gave no warning? And this brings us to Ezekiel. Ezekiel, keep this Phuket experience in your mind as we go to Ezekiel. Because what did the Lord say to Ezekiel? Let's read about Ezekiel. Ezekiel, his name means God will strengthen. Ezekiel was chosen by God to be a watchman. And we read of Ezekiel in Ezekiel 3 verses 16, and we're going to read quite a lengthy bit, 16 to 21. And the word of the Lord came unto me being Ezekiel, saying, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word of my mouth, and give them warning from me. When I say unto the wicked, Thou shalt surely die, and thou givest him not warning, nor speakest to warn the wicked from his wicked way, to save his life, the same wicked man shall die in his iniquity. But his blood will I require at thine hand. Yet, if thou warn the wicked, and he turn not from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he shall die in his iniquity, but thou hast delivered thy soul. Again, when a righteous man doth turn from his righteousness, and commit iniquity, and I lay a stumbling block before him, he shall die. Because thou hast not given him warning, he shall die in his sin. And his righteousness which he hath done shall not be remembered, but his blood will I require at thine hand. Nevertheless, if thou warn the righteous man, that the righteous sin not, and he doth not sin, he shall surely live, because he is warned. also thou hast delivered thy soul. Now, this is not an esoteric, obscure, impressionist message. It is blatantly obvious. The Lord will hold Ezekiel accountable for the blood of another. And I want to propose to you today that there are three levels to this Ezekiel experience. There was an actual watchman, guarding the Israel of Ezekiel's day. He would watch and warn of physical harm, and that was his job, to watch and to warn against physical harm. However, Ezekiel was a prophet, and Ezekiel was called to be a spiritual watchman for Israel. He was to watch and warn against spiritual harm. But lastly, Ezekiel, as a prophet, was a type or a prophetic symbol or an allegory for the people of God who are to be watchmen unto the world. We are called to be watchmen following the example of Ezekiel and watch and warn our world in our current time of the spiritual harm. Now that is giving away the entire sermon, and you know, we got there very quickly, and this is just because people's attention spans these days, they cannot keep up for very long. But for those of you who are willing to bear with me a bit longer, let's just go to Ezekiel 33, because the Lord is insisting on this message, and he repeats it. Ezekiel 33 verses 1, again the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, and we go to Ezekiel 33 verses 7 to 9. So thou, O son of man, I have set thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore thou shalt hear the word at my mouth, and warn them from me. When I say unto the wicked, O wicked man, thou shalt surely die, if thou dost not speak to warn the wicked from his way, that wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood I will require at thine hand. Nevertheless, if thou warn the wicked of his way to turn from him, if he do not turn from his way, he shall die in his iniquity, but thou hast delivered thy soul. The Lord is quite adamant, and he repeats this charge, this duty, this message to Ezekiel. If thou dost not speak to warn the wicked from his way, his blood I will require at thine hand. Now, to help us understand the extent of responsibility here, the extent of the responsibility here, let's be reminded in verse 9. Nevertheless, if thou warn the wicked of his way to turn from it, if he does not turn from it, he shall die in his iniquity, but thou hast delivered thy soul. Ezekiel is accountable for warning the wicked. Ezekiel is not accountable for the decisions and actions of the wicked. Ezekiel is to watch and warn, but Ezekiel cannot make the decision for the wicked, nor for the fallen righteous. The book of Ezekiel is very clear on this point, that we are all to take responsibility for our own actions and decisions. We can see this clearly in Ezekiel chapter 18. Let's go to chapter 18, verses 1 to 4, and then 20. The word of the Lord came unto me again, saying, What mean ye that ye use this proverb? There's a proverb that they're using in Israel. The fathers have eaten sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge. As I live, saith the Lord God, ye shall not have occasion any more to use this proverb in Israel. Behold, all souls are mine, as the soul of the Father, so also the soul of the Son is mine. The soul that sinneth, it shall die. Verse 20, the soul that sinneth, it shall die. The Son shall not bear the iniquity of the Father, neither shall the Father bear the iniquity of the Son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon him, and the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon him. We see here again very clearly, Ezekiel is accountable for warning the wicked. Ezekiel is not accountable for the decisions and actions of the wicked. But, you know, some have this objection. And we find this objection, we find it as an age-old question. A question written for us in Genesis 4:9, a question asked by Cain after he slew his brother Abel. And the Lord said unto Cain, where is Abel thy brother? And Cain said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? Am I my brother's keeper? Did you know that the Hebrew word translated as keeper in English in this verse is originally the word shamar, and that this word shamar is the very same word translated as watchman in Ezekiel 3:33. So what then is the implied answer to this question? Am I my brother's keeper? Is the same as asking, am I my brother's watchman? And what is the answer? The answer is yes. Yes, the Lord made it clear to Ezekiel. The answer is yes. Ezekiel is accountable for warning his brother. Ezekiel is his brother's keeper. Ezekiel is his brother's watchman. Ezekiel is accountable for warning his brother, but Ezekiel is not accountable for his brother's decisions and actions. He is his brother's watchman. He is his brother's keeper. Yes, that is the answer. And if that goes for Ezekiel, the same goes for you. You too are accountable for your brother. Ezekiel is the type. He is the prophetic symbol. He is the living allegory. But his message, his truth is intended for us. We are our brother's keepers. We are our brother's watchmen. We are to watch and warn our brothers. This is our duty. We find it in Isaiah 62 verse 6. I have set watchmen upon thy walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace day nor night. We are the watchmen on the wall. We are our brother's keeper. We are never to sleep and slumber. Day and night we should not hold our peace. But that is our duty. The sad reality is, I fear, that we may have become as the watchmen over Israel in the days of Isaiah. We read of these watchmen in Isaiah chapter 56 verses 9 to 12. Isaiah 56 verses 9 to 12. All ye beasts of the field come to devour. Yea, all ye beasts in the forest. His watchmen are blind. Blind. They are all ignorant. They are all dumb dogs. They cannot bark, sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber. Yea, they are greedy dogs which can never have enough, and they are shepherds that cannot understand. They all look to their own way, everyone for his gain from his quarter. Come ye, say they, I will fetch wine, and we will fill ourselves with strong drink, and tomorrow shall be as this day, and much more abundant. Thus we should be careful. We should be careful of becoming as these watchmen over Israel, watchmen from whom the Lord will require the blood of the wicked. Wicked who could have been warned, but weren't. Wicked who could have been saved, but weren't. Why? Because the watchmen were blind. The watchmen were ignorant. The watchmen were as dumb dogs, and dumb here means mute. The watchmen did not bark a warning. The watchmen were sleeping, lying down, and loving their slumber. Proverbs 6:10 says, yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. Oh, where were the watchmen then? And where are they today? Brothers and sisters, if this worldwide pandemic has not woken you from your slumber, then what will? The front page of the newspaper reads as the back page of the Bible, revelation is being fulfilled, freedom is no more, compulsion is the decree, all in the name of safety. A great reset is foisted upon the world, resetting our way of life. But where are the watchmen? The watchmen are asleep. They are distracted. They are disinterested. They are disaffected. They are distanced. Oh, where are the watchmen? The Lord is pleading with us today. The Lord is reminding us of our duty. Oh, where are the watchmen? Jesus said in Luke 21 verse 36, "Watch ye therefore, and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man." Where are our watchmen, church? Who is warning the wicked? Who is pleading with the fallen righteous? Who shall be that watchman? Oh, that watchman on the wall. Who will give that clarion call to warn the wayward? Time is precious. Who will sound the trumpet to prepare the Lord's people? Who? Is there anyone here today? Who will be that watchman? Brothers and sisters, in 2012, I stood in front of a burning hotel. I did not hear the siren. The siren was as a dumb dog. I stood there and I prayed. And I asked the Lord to give me the reassurance that He was leading my heart, that this was not foolish courage. And I ran into a burning hotel to evacuate every single room in that hotel. There were souls sleeping in that hotel, not knowing the deadly peril that they were in. No one else was willing to be the watchman. I ran into that building and not a single soul was lost on that night when Satan was hungry for souls. Not a single one. It could have been a tragedy. The Lord saved each and every one who was willing to listen and grab their loved ones and left that hotel. Brothers and sisters, today I see many people who are aware that there is something very wrong with our society. They're looking at the world and they can see something's not right. I have had people who I never thought would be open to discussing the Bible, to sharing a prayer. These people are reaching out. They want the watchman to tell them, is it safe? Brothers and sisters, a work colleague of mine has reached out during this pandemic. A person I never thought I would be able to share the gospel to, but because of my pre-pandemic example, when crisis struck, she reached out, and today she's taking Bible studies with the Adventist Church, a secular colleague. Brothers and sisters, there's a moment in time right now to actively and enthusiastically and urgently share the gospel truth. But where are the watchmen? I pray that we may have the watchmen who are willing to watch and pray and warn and save souls. Oh, where are the watchmen? Brothers and sisters, I want to be very transparent and honest with you. I want to share this secret with you. You know what? It is easy. It was easy for me to decide to run into that hotel. I could assess the situation. I thought, yeah, I can see the fire, but it's not the whole hotel. It's just the other hotel that's burning, and this one will burn. I could make that call. I could run in there. I could go and make a fool of myself in front of total strangers. Imagine it wasn't as serious as I thought, but they're strangers. I don't care. I'll just laugh it off. I'll never see them again. That's easy. It's easy to warn strangers. It's low risk. But you know what is a more difficult situation? Where it's a real challenge to be a watchman. It is among your own people. It is surrounded by your loved ones who are in need of the watchman. It is your family. It is your friends. It is your colleagues. The people who know you. That is where it's difficult to be a watchman. Who wants to embarrass themselves in front of their friends? Who wants to risk offending their own family members? I mean, is it really that serious? Is it necessary to take the risk? Yes, brothers and sisters, yes, compared to being a watchman in the home, a watchman for my friends, a watchman for my colleagues at work, yes, it is a truly scary thought, but it is necessary. Yes, if you are willing to be a watchman there, then I will say you are courageous. But you know what? Courageous is the wrong word. You're not courageous. You're not brave. You're not acting in valor. No, there's one word for it. You are faithful. You are full of faith, and that's why you are faithful. And that is all that matters. And that is why Ezekiel's name means God will strengthen. Be that watchman, full of faith. Let God strengthen you. Oh, brothers and sisters, where are the watchmen today? Let's close our eyes. Dear Lord,